Good morning, Mr. President. Guard of Honor Funga, 3 officers, 96 rated, with the Ghana Navy Regimental Band on parade, ready for your inspection. Naval Lieutenant Samuel Saba, reporting, Mr. President. Aye, Mr. President. Guard of Honor, show them out! Mr. President, inspection over. May I have the permission to carry on, Mr. President? Aye, Mr. President. Guard of Honor, national salute, free dead up! The left in 3. Left 10.
Having a chat with the wife of the Vice President, Hajia Samira Bawumia, former President Rawlings, the first president of the Fourth Republic, together with his spouse, Nana Kunedu Adjuma Rawlings, and there will be the national anthem now. So at this point, the Right Honourable Speaker is proceeding to the central lobby to receive the President and his vice as he has now brought them in. And soon, honourable members of Parliament and other distinguished guests will resume their seats.
Where were you? We're looking for you all over the place.
Okay, Honorable members, we are honored to have in the House His Excellency Nana Addo Akuffo, President of the Republic of Ghana, in Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, together with his wife, Mrs. Rebecca Akuffo Addo. We also receive with great pleasure His Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and his wife, Mrs. Samira Bawumia. May I also acknowledge the presence of my Lord, the Chief Justice, Ms. Sophia Akuffo, and other justices of the Superior Court of Judicature of the Republic. The former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, and his wife, Mrs. Nana Konedu Ajimon Rawlings. The former President of the Republic, His Excellency, President John Mahama. Order. Order. The Chairman and members of the Council of State, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, traditional and religious leaders, eminent citizens of our country, my wife Alberta, leaders of all political parties in the Republic, distinguished ladies and gentlemen here present, honorable members, His Excellency, the President, is in the House this morning in accordance with Article 67 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to deliver his message on the state of the nation. On behalf of the leadership, honorable members and officers of this House, it is my singular honor to welcome His Excellency, the President, to this House. And now, I respectfully invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Akuffo Addo, to deliver his message on the state of our nation. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, glad to be here with you again in this august house, the Parliament of our Republic, to perform for the third time the pleasant duty of fulfilling my constitutional obligation by giving honorable members and the Ghanaian people a message on the state of the nation. In accordance with protocol and convention, it's good to see the First Lady Rebecca Akuffo Addo, Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, Second Lady Samira Bawumia, spouse of Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Alberta Okoye, Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo, and Justices of the Supreme Court, Chairperson Nana Utusibo II, and members of the Council of State, Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Obi Akwa, Inspector General of Police David Asante Pietu, and service chiefs are all present. Speaker, the House is duly honored by the welcome attendance of the former presidents of the Republic, the first and fourth presidents of the Fourth Republic, Their Excellencies Jerry John Rawlings and John Dramani Mahama, former First Lady, Her Excellency Nana Konadu Ajiman Rawlings, and the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps. Mr. Speaker, the House will also take note of the passing last year of some distinguished citizens of our country. Vice President Kwesi Bekoe Amisa Arthur, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, Senior Minister J.H. Mensah, Justice of the Supreme Court Justice V.C.R.A.C. Crabb, PND Secretary Mr. K.B. Asante, and the Poet Laureate Professor Atukwe Okai. May their souls rest and abide in the bosom of the Almighty until the last day of the resurrection, when we shall all meet again. Amen. Speaker, I hope the House will bear with me as I have a lot to say, and I may take quite some time. A month ago, almost to the day, I was in Yendi, fittingly attired as a self-proclaimed Prince of Dagon, Prince Abudani, the first of that lineage, to witness the installation of Yana Muhammad Abukari II as the overlord of Dagon. Thousands of our compatriots were there to share in the joy of the occasion. It was a ceremony that many had despaired we would ever see. But a new Yana, accepted by the two gates of Abudu and Andani, was installed on that day. It brought to an end decades of feuding that laid low the proud and ancient kingdom of Dagon. It was a happy day, and it marked the climax of a long, tortuous journey and a hard grind on the part of many people through the years. 2 years ago, when I had the honor to become president of our country, I decided to summon all the resources of the state and my own energies and make a concerted effort through the dedicated patriotic committee of eminent chiefs that had been working on the problem for the last 17 years to find an acceptable solution. With the blessings of the Almighty, we had a breakthrough, and this led to the month-long series of events that will climax in the installation on 25th January 2019. So, Speaker, I was not looking to be accorded any special title or accolade, and I was certainly not looking for praise. I did want to do whatever I could to make sure that this long-running sore that was such a blight on Dagon and Ghana, and which dragged down the development process in our country, could be resolved and we could move on. We'd spent enough emotional stress, enough time, enough energy, and enough money on the Dagon dispute. I wanted that amount of emotion, that time, that energy, and that money to be spent on trying to make Dagon and Ghana prosperous. I'm grateful for the hard work and wisdom of the eminent chiefs, Tufuose Tutu II, Asantehene, the Nairi, Na Bohugu Abdullahi Mahami Sheriga, Overlord of Mamprugu, and the Yabongura, Tutumba Boresa Sulemana Jakwa, overlord of the Ganja state, all of whom I salute, and for the support of many people in this House on both sides. And I pray that we all continue to build on this achievement and midwife the process until peace becomes part of the fabric of Gabon. The Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs intends to use the momentum of the Gabon settlement to tackle the other protracted chieftaincy disputes in the country, hopefully, for resolution. Mr. Speaker, in order to reinforce and support the process of reconciliation and the restoration of peace in Gabon, I have decided that this year, the official 62nd Independence Day celebration will be held in Tamale on 6th March. This will be the first time in our nation's history that the celebration is being held outside of our national capital of Accra, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Mr. Speaker, this past week, the grounds of Jubilee House, the seat of our nation's presidency, have resounded to a lot of celebrations as we mark the handing over ceremonies of the constitutional instruments to the 6 new regions in our country. It has taken 18 months of very hard work and very complicated maneuvering to get to where we are today. Again, the requests and agitations for creation of new regions have been long-standing, and we have somehow never got around to dealing with them. The first petition for the creation of OT region, for example, dates back to 1954. Mr. Speaker, it was time to deal with these outstanding issues so that we could go ahead with the business of developing our country. The creation of the 6 new regions opens up the country and ensures that no one feels cut off from the center. Mr. Speaker, no corner of this country is being left behind. It is for this reason that we have created the 3 developmental authorities. It is for this reason that we have realigned the national budget to ensure that every constituency gets to see the equivalent of $1 million a year for priority projects. Mr. Speaker, I'm able to state, and every member of this House should be able to testify, that work is going on in each of the 275 constituencies around the country. The water and toilet provision segment of the Special Development Initiative is taking place in every constituency. We came into office with a plan, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to say that we're working and delivering in accordance with that plan. Mr. Speaker, now that the regions are in place, we have the singular opportunity to avoid the old mistakes of urban planning that have made some of our towns and cities such unattractive places. The lessons will seem to show that the political capital does not necessarily have to be the site of all the institutions, and this will guide us in the setting up of the new regions. Indeed, when designating the capitals of the new regions at the ceremonies at Jubilee House last week, I made it clear the government is committed to the equitable distribution of government structures and institutions across the regions. We will keep to the commitment. Mr. Speaker, we have also embarked on another aspect of our ambitious decentralization program, that is the exercise to expand full democracy to local government. In addition to the creation of 38 municipal and district assemblies and the elevation of 29 districts to the status of municipalities, the bill for the amendment of Article 55(3) of the Constitution has been gazetted to pave way for the direct popular election on partisan basis of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. It is expected that a referendum will be held on the bill alongside the unit assembly and district level elections in 2019. I am calling respectfully, Mr. Speaker, for a repetition of the bipartisan support that made possible the hugely successful outcomes in the referenda for the new regions to ensure the success of the impending referendum. Furthermore, a multidisciplinary panel of experts is being assembled to plan, cost, schedule, and help implement a roadmap for the election of MMDCEs. We're committed to devolving more and more power to the Ghanaian people. Mr. Speaker, the economy is at the heart of all we seek to do. It is the success of the economy that will guarantee an improvement in the quality of the life of our people. I believe we are now all agreed that the fundamentals have to be sound if the economy is to flourish. We've just concluded a program with the IMF, and with continuing discipline, we shall sign off from the deal in April. This is the 16th time Ghana has had to go to the IMF in the 62 years of her independence. Mr. Speaker, we cannot make the progress we all desire unless we are consistent and disciplined in the management of our economy. The yo-yo nature of the boom and bust has not helped us achieve our goal of sustained prosperity and lift us out of poverty. We have gone through another round of painful impositions to get to where we are today with healthy fundamentals. Mr. Speaker, production in the economy as measured by real GDP growth has picked up very strongly in the last 2 years. From 3.4% in 2016, real GDP growth increased to 8.1% in 2017. In 2018, provisional data for the first 3 quarters indicate a strong real GDP growth of 6%, higher than the annual target of 5.6%. Real GDP growth for 2019 is forecast at 7.6%. Ghana's recent GDP growth has placed it among the highest in the world. The fiscal deficit is being brought down from the 7.3 of rebased GDP in 2016 to a provisional 3.9% of GDP at the end of 2018. The debt to GDP ratio has declined from the 56.6% of GDP in 2016 to 54.8% at the end of 2018. Inflation has dropped from 15.4% at the end of 2016 to 9.9% in January this year, the lowest in 6 years, as announced by the Ghana Statistical Service last week. Interest rates are declining, and so is the Bank of Ghana monetary policy rate. Our trade balance account, for the first time in more than a decade, recorded a surplus in 2017 and is expected to remain in surplus. In May 2018, a $2 billion Eurobond was issued for 30 and 10 years of $1 billion each, with coupon rates of 8.62% and 7.62% respectively. And these were the lowest rates and the longest maturity in our history, signifying confidence in the economy. It comes as no surprise, therefore, that today Ghana is the leading recipient of foreign direct investment in West Africa. Mr. Speaker, these are good figures. And as we prepare to exit from the IMF program in April, we expect impressive figures and good performance to continue. We are very much aware that this is not the first time we have had such a good set of figures. But we're determined to do things differently this time around. We have imposed on ourselves fiscal discipline, we're paying off legacy debts, and deepening good governance practice, and business confidence is growing. We will maintain the discipline and bring progress to our country. We've decided to institute a legal framework to help with the discipline. We've passed the Fiscal Responsibility Law, Act 982, capping the deficit at 5% by law. And some 2 weeks ago, I inaugurated the Presidential Fiscal Responsibility Advisory Council, chaired by the eminent, respected economist, Dr. Paul Akuffo, former governor of the Bank of Ghana and former deputy director of the Africa Department of the IMF, with some of the finest and most reputable economists of our country as members. Its purpose is to advise the President on relevant additional measures needed to maintain fiscal discipline. We have done this because we know the temptation to go on a spending binge will always be there. We know election years will come around and there will be pressure on government to splurge, and persuasive arguments will be made that you have to stay in government to be able to implement your programs. However, I am bent on running a responsible administration, mindful of the next generation and not merely the next election. In the meantime, our efforts are bearing some fruits, and the world has taken notice of the improvement in our economic fundamentals. In September last year, after almost a decade, we received our first sovereign credit rating upgrade from Standard & Poor's, S&P. This upgrade saw us move from B- to B with a stable outlook. In December 2018, we also hosted the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Madam Christine Lagarde, a visit that was historical in every sense, as this was the first time that an IMF Managing Director had ever stepped foot on Ghanaian soil. Mr. Speaker, revenue mobilization poses the biggest challenge in the management of our economy, with the tax exemption policy in particular proving to be an Achilles heel and a growing menace to fiscal stability and revenue generation. In the last 8 years, tax exemptions in respect of import duty, import VAT, import NHIL, and domestic VAT have grown from 392 million cedis, that is 0.6% of GDP in 2010, to 4.6 billion cedis, that is 1.6% of GDP in 2018. These figures do not include exemptions from the payment of corporate and individual income taxes, concessions on tax rates, petroleum tax reliefs, customs tax exemptions enjoyed by diplomatic missions, and waiver of processing. In less than 16 years, half of Ghana's revenue. Mr. Speaker, we intend to do something about it to reverse the trend by introducing suitable measures that may disrupt the easy and comfortable arrangements that many have become accustomed to, but which we have to take to ensure that we have the firmest of foundations for the economic takeoff that has escaped us for so long. Mr. Speaker, workers in the public sector began the year on a good note after receiving a 10% increase in their salaries, on top of the 11% increment of 2018. 41,000 workers in the informal sector were also enrolled onto Tier 3 pension schemes, with pensioners seeing an average increment of 11% in their monthly pension schemes, with the lowest income bracket receiving a 14.7% increment. Last year, the Youth Employment Agency, YEA, engaged some 107,000 youth in various employment modules, with an additional 125,000 set to be engaged this year. Mr. Speaker, to consolidate further the relations between the social partners in the post-IMF era, the government will shortly sign a landmark social partnership agreement with Organized labor, the Trades Union Congress, the Ghana Employers Association, and government, represented by the Ministries of Finance and Employment and Labor Relations, to provide a medium for building a sense of cohesion, trust, self-management, frank and open discussions to champion the cause of development. Speaker, the fight against child labor has chalked some modest success. Through the implementation of the second phase of the National Action Plan of Action 2017-2021, Ghana has been moved up from the Tier 2 watch list position of the Trafficking in Persons report to Tier 2 in 2018. So, Speaker, our ports remain important national assets, and we must manage them to improve trade and to the benefit of all Ghanaians.